Question number 2, Chapter 25. If a society decides to reduce consumption and increase investment, it could lead to an increase in economic growth and productivity. With this change, it will somehow benefit almost all groups in society in the long term. Greater productivity and economic growth will create higher incomes and bigger profits. However, there might be a transition period in which workers and owners in consumption good industry would get lower incomes and get higher incomes in investment good industry. Some group may have to reduce the spending for some times to raise the investment.
Question 4. Explain how higher saving leads to a higher standard of living, and what might deter a policymaker from trying to raise the rate of saving. Well, higher saving leads to a higher standard of living because the society presently sacrifices consumptions of goods and services to enjoy higher consumption in the future. What might deter a policymaker from trying to raise the rate of saving could be a sudden need to raise the government spending. For example, raising the budget due to the declaration of war.
1. The bond of an Eastern European government would likely to pay a higher interest rate than the bond of the government because there would be a greater risk default perceived from the bonds of Eastern European government. 2. A bond that repays the principal in 20 and 25 would pay a higher interest rate than the bond that repays in the principal of 2005 because at the time of maturity is longer there will be risk involved. Thus, a long-term bond will pay a higher rate compared to a short-term maturing bond. 3. A bond from the software company I run in Massachusetts should pay a higher interest rather than the bond from Coca-Cola because my software company has more credit risk and it is more in the size. 4. A bond issued by the federal government would pay a higher interest rate than the bond issued by the United States, the New York State, because the return on the New York State bond is tax exempt, so an investor does not have to pay federal income tax on the bond from New York State.
So, hello everyone, I'm Long from Group 2. Today, I will represent you chapter 26. I will answer one question in the problem solving. So, I will answer the question number 4. So, suppose GDP is 8 trillion, taxes are 1.5 trillion, private saving is 0.5 trillion, and public saving is 0.2 trillion. Assuming this economy is closed, calculate consumption, government purchases, national saving, and investment. So let's look what we have here. We have GDP is 8 trillion and private saving is 0.5 trillion and tax are 1.5 trillion and public saving is 0.2 trillion. So the question is requiring us to calculate the consumption, government purchases, national saving, and investment in case of this economy is closed. So because this economy is closed, so we have net export is 0. So and we have private saving is 0.5. So that is equal to GDP minus tax and consumption. So this means the consumption will be equal, we calculate by GDP minus tax and minus private saving. So it would be 6. And then the national saving, in case this economy is closed, so the national saving and the investment is equal. So, and it's calculated by private saving plus public saving. So it would be 0.7. And the government budget, the government budget will can be calculated by many ways different, but it will be little one answer only. So in this case, I will use the GDP and consumption and invest to calculate the government budget. So the government budget will calculate as GDP minus consumption and investment. So it will be 1.3 trillion. So that's all my part. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, my name is Thanh Lam and today I will present about the chapter 28, question 7 of our principle of economics. So we first take a look at the questions. The question is, using a diagram of the labor market, show the effect of an increase in the minimum wage on the wage paid to worker and the number of worker supply, the number of worker demand, and the amount of employment. So first we will take a look at my diagram. So here we have this diagram is show the labor market with a binding minimum wage. So first the initial equilibrium with the minimum wage M1 has a quantity of labor supply LS1 greater than the quantity of the labor demand L1D. So with the unemployment equal to L1S minus L1D. So and for the second one, to which an increase in the minimum wage to M2 can lead to an increase in the quantity of labor supply to L2S and the decrease in the quantity of labor demanded to L2D. So at the result, the unemployment increase and the minimum wage rise. So that's the end of my presentation for this question. Thank you for listening.
So today I will do the problem and application of question 1 in chapter 28 about the unemployment. So my question is in June 2009, at the trough of the Great Recession, the Bureau of the Labor Statistics announced that of all the adult Americans with the number of 114,196,000 were employed, and the number unemployed is 14,729,000, and the number of the people who is not in the labor force is 80,729,000. So my request is use this information to calculate with the four requests. The first request is calculate adult population. The second is calculate labor force. Calculate the labor force participation rate, and the final request is calculate the unemployment rate. So coming to my first question, calculating the adult population. So that I will paste on the three details that the question giving to me. So I will calculate the adult population based on the sum of three details. It means that number of employed will plus number of unemployed and plus those not in the labor force. It means that we will sum if the adult population is sum of three number that the question giving to me, so it will equal to 235,654,000. Coming to question B, calculating the labor force. And I have the formula is the labor force will equal to the number of employed plus the number of unemployed. This means that we will use two number of with the third request, calculating the labor force participation rate. In this request, we will use the labor force will divide it to the adult population and then we will multiply with 100. So we will have the labor force participation rate. So it means that we will use the number in the question P will divide to the number we get after the calculate in question A, and then we will multiply to 100, and we will get the answer result like 65.74%. And then we will come into the final question B. It's been calculating the employment rate. So that we will use the number of the unemployed in the question 1 and divide it to the number of the labor force that we get in the result of the question P, and then we will multiply with 100. So that after that we will get the unemployment rate. So we will use 14,729,000 divided to the number of the labor force in question B is 154,925,000, and then multiply with 100. We will have the result 9.5% is the unemployment rate.